a.m. and I had a very good session in a wetland area, working mainly with sedge warblers. The light was great, but now, as you can tell, it's already very harsh, so time to put the camera back in the backpack and we can move to the video. Today I want to talk about something very important, which is what I wish I knew when I first started bird photography. So it took me a while to find a place in shade in this nature reserve, but here we are, so we can officially get started. These are literally the things I wish I could tell to myself in the past when I first started bird photography. So I started a bit more than 3 years ago, and I started from completely zero knowledge in both photography and in both the bird world. And I actually started all by myself because it was during COVID, so I didn't really have the chance to talk to people, and whatever I learned, I just did it figuring out by myself, reading articles, watching YouTube videos. And although I read a lot, it took me a while to figure out a few things, and these are the things that I'm going to tell you today. So the first very important thing is go out early morning and also in late afternoon. This is the so-called golden hour, which is a concept that is not applicable only in bird photography but also other fields of photography. However, in bird photography, the golden hour concept becomes even more important because it's not just a matter of colors, but it's also the moment where there is the peak activity for birds. So you have far more chances to see birds or see them in interesting behaviors. So the golden hour is literally the time period shortly... Oh, there is a cuckoo calling. Sorry, the golden hour is literally the time period shortly after sunrise or before sunset. In this time, the sun is closer to the horizon, which basically results in much softer colors, no strong shadows, and a very golden hue. So because the sun is closer to the horizon, the rays will actually come to an angle and the light will be much more diffuse, which is very flattering for every subject, including birds. You can use this moment also for more creative effects, for example, work with backlighting, because again, the sun is much closer to the horizon. So the golden hour light is much warmer, full of yellows, oranges and reds, and basically the resulting color palette in your photo will be full of these colors that people normally associate with feeling of warmth and happiness. I'm a big fan especially of the sunrise, also because honestly, hearing the word waking up with the birds is just priceless. And I do understand that the early mornings, especially during summertime, can be difficult, but I really promise you that if you're not trying to take photos at sunrise, you're really missing out. This morning, for example, I woke up at 6 a.m. I was here before 7 a.m. but the sunrise has already been gone. Anyway, the light was still nice for at least 1 hour, which allowed me to work and get nice results. So you can see here for today I mainly worked with sedge warblers, and you get that type of very soft color palette that is just impossible to get if you shoot in any other part of the day. The second point that I wish I could figure sooner was that getting closer to the bird is actually not all it matters. I think that one of the biggest frustration of bird photography is getting close to the bird. And I've been there. I remember my first months as a bird photographer. I was exploring these new places, and I was maybe learning to find birds and recognizing them and hearing them, but they were always super close, and it looked like no matter how much I upgraded my lens, they were always too far away. So I started with 55 to 250 millimeter, which is objectively quite a short lens for bird photography. But then I upgraded to a 100 to 400 millimeter lens by Tamron, and then again it looked like it wasn't enough, so I upgraded to the 150 to 600 millimeter G-tube again by Tamron. But you know what? Even when I moved to a 600 millimeter lens with a crop sensor camera, it was still not enough. And it actually took me a while, way too long, to realize the importance of surroundings. So if we think about birds, they will not be there if it wasn't for the habitat. So it's worth it to portray the habitat too. That's when I started to play around with what I like to call small in frame shots. So these are photos where typically the bird occupy a very small part in the frame, so the percentage can change, but with time I really like to push these to almost a minimalist approach where the bird is literally so tiny in the frame, and where actually the surroundings are as important as the bird. Learning how to use the surroundings in my photos has been a totally game changer, because first of all, it just decreased the frustration that I was having all the time that I was going out and not getting close enough to the bird to get a good portrait. And secondly, it really helped me with my creativity. At the end, I actually started to like more that type of photos versus the more classical bird portrait or close-up, because I think that overall environmental shots are more unique. Also, I think that learning how to use the surroundings push your creative mind as a photographer, because if you want to include the surroundings too, you have to be much more careful in how to use the light, for example. Unfortunately, I think that one of the things that can hold people back from trying also these other type of bird photos is social media impact, because the point is that on social media we look at these photos mostly on our smartphone, so we have a small screen that just don't allow fully appreciating this type of photos. But at the end of the day, you don't take photos to post them on social media. You take photos for yourself or to give a message. So I would like really to encourage everyone at least to try. Maybe it will not be your cup of tea and you will hate it, but please at least give it a go. This is my exercise for you. Next time that you're out taking photos of birds, please try to take a small in-frame photo. So take a photo that includes also the surroundings of the bird, and it can be a surroundings where you really want to make people understand where the bird is, or you can play maybe more creatively using the lights, like using silhouettes or fogs and stuff like that. The third thing I wish I could just go back and tell Chiara from the past is, Chiara, please stop taking photos of birds on the ground or on the water just casually walking and standing up. Please stop it. If I was told that from now on, in every bird photo I'm about to take, I can focus only on one single thing, I would definitely say, and that's quite an easy answer, on the eye of the bird. In every photo, not just bird photo, the eye is actually where the connection is made between the viewer and the subject. And this is true also for bird photography. If you get a photo eye level with your subject, you will create a sense of equality with the viewer. Well, the viewer will feel much more easy to get in connection with your subject. It will be like I'm allowed to get really in this amazing bird world. So of course, in case you're taking a photo of a bird perching on a tree or perhaps flying, it's perfectly okay to stand up, and actually the advice is to try to get as high as possible to try to reach the eye level of the bird. But in many cases we will actually take photos of birds that are either on the ground or in the water, and here it becomes critical to try to get as much as close as possible to the level of the eye of the bird. So if for a bird in the water, it will be try to get your camera really water level. I perfectly understand that this is not always practically feasible, because it depends on the location, it depends on how much some parts of the location are accessible. But anyway, as a rule of thumb, you should try to get as close as possible on the ground. So instead of just standing up, just try to either squat down or sit down if you can. And of course, for the very hardcore type of bird photography, you can completely be on your belly. And if you're doing bird photography, you have to prepare to get dirty, and I actually quite like it. Of course, to try to minimize the amount of dirt that you then carry around, you can use different things. For example, I have this mat. It's very small actually. I preferred it that way because I can carry it more easily, but there are also the very long ones, so if you really are on the ground, you will be kind of more protected. Honestly, getting lower to try to reach that eye level can completely change the quality of your bird photo result in so many ways. It's not just about getting the eye as an engaging element to create that connection with the viewer and the subject, but it's also about other aspects, technical aspects of your photo. Because, for example, if you're closer to the ground level and a bird is on the ground or in the water, you will dramatically decrease, for example, the level of texture, because so much more of the foreground and the background will actually be blurred, meaning that your subject will be completely popping up, and that's what we want in a bird photo in most of the cases. The first thing that it took me a while to figure, but I think that really completely changed the way I work as a bird photographer, is getting aware that actually good bird photos don't happen by chance. So it's all about a change in mindset from reactive to proactive. I understand, because I was there too, that at the first stages of bird photography, a lot is just about going around and just trying to react as good as possible and as fast as possible to the scenes that just develop in front of our eyes. So it's like, oh, there is a bird, and you just try to take that photo. And that's okay, because of course there's always the luck factor anyway. So you can just casually walk everywhere and just get a good photo of an amazing bird. However, the truth is that most good photos out there really don't happen by chance, but they are the result of very good preparation. Sometimes there are hours and hours, days, months, and even years that go behind a certain photo result. So if you want to up your game in bird photography, planning is really key. A lot of planning is about location scouting. So location scouting is actually one of the most, if not the most, time-consuming part of bird photography. So location scouting is all about identifying good locations. And how do you understand if a location is good for bird photography? Well, first of all, you need to have subjects, so it's a good spot for birds. The second very important factor is that the location needs to be accessible. I mean, there are many very good bird watching spots that are absolutely full of birds and the numbers are great, but those places are actually not good at all for bird photography, because perhaps the birds are really there, but they are anyway too far away for any good photo, even environmental shots. Another very important thing, at least for me, is also how easy is to reach that location. I mean, you don't want to spend hours and hours just to drive around to reach a location. So this is why I really think that it's critical to start from the locations that you can more easily reach. Those will be your key locations, because if a location is within easy access, it means that you can go there over and over and over again. And trust me that repetition is key here. Because to fully understand the value of allocation for bird photography, one visit is definitely not enough. You have to go there at least exploring different weather conditions or even different seasons, because as an example, I have here, very close where I live, some locations that are my winter locations, and then I have some locations that are my spring and summer location, and that all depends on the birds that go there on specific seasons. So for example, where I'm here now, this is one of my spring summer location. So my GoPro battery died. I'm literally a tribal YouTuber. Anyway, we can close the video now. So in case you're interested, I'm actually hosting my first free live webinar about getting started with bird photography. So the webinar is really targeted towards beginner bird photographer or intermediate bird photographers that want a refresh, because we're going through all the basic concepts and also the most important concepts to get started successfully in bird photography. So I'll leave the link under the video. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel not to miss all the next videos about birds and bird photography, of course. See you next time!